Welcome to the Marriage and Mating Summit, presented by the College of Empowerment to help us all get our ships together. At the College of Empowerment, we're innovating personal and professional development with an online community, courses, and private coaching. Take a course. Get a coach.
Welcome back. I'm super duper excited that we're back for our second panel. We've got 3 today. Don't forget, after this one, we have 7 p.m. Healing While Dating and Married. But for those of you who don't know, I'm your host, Stephanie D. McKenzie. I will be moderating the panel today. And I'm also the founder of the College of Empowerment. And I also work as a fractional CMO. That's your chief marketing officer, or your chief mindset officer, helping you achieve what I love to call hustle-free success. So if you were here before, drop your comments in the chat. You know this is an open, interactive type of exercise. So if you've got comments, questions, all the things, the chat, the comments are completely open, and we welcome all of your feedback. I want to take a moment and introduce our guest and bring them up because we have a superb panel for this conversation. And we've all heard the term power couple, and it's something that we're familiar with, but what exactly does it take to possibly be a power couple, consider being a power couple, or should we just throw the term out altogether? Nevertheless, we're going to talk about all of that and more during our Love and the Bottom Line panel. And I want you to meet my panelists. My first panelist is Craig Gruenbaum. He is a 12-year Marine Corps veteran, and he is still active in the reserves. His journey into health insurance began with a desire for more family time, but evolved into a passion to help families, individuals, and groups navigate the complexities of healthcare coverage while working with wife Lourdes, their 4 children, and their 3 small dogs. Welcome, Craig, to the conversation. Next, I have Kevin and Natasha Campbell, who have graciously decided to join us as our resident couple. Kevin has had multiple businesses over the years, and he currently works as an independent insurance adjuster. Natasha also is a life coach and works as a district manager with H&R Block. Welcome them up.
Thank you.
Hey, y'all.
Hey. And last but not least, one of my favorite people in TikTok land, I think we can still say that, is Niala Thorpe, CEO of Market Your Message. Niala has a unique approach to fundamental brand building, creating systematic framework, and building strategic business systems that are built to last. She is best known for her straight shooter teaching and extensive experience in marketing and sales. She helps coaches as well as service professionals find and market their unique message so they can create the life that they deserve and the legacy that they desire. Get on in here, girl. How's everyone doing today?
Doing great.
Awesome.
I'm so excited to have you guys here. So super duper excited. So let's go ahead and get into some of these questions, because I started this panel talking about the idea of the power couple. And I want to get into that conversation with you all because I'm wondering, is it a realistic goal or an unrealistic trope? And I'm going to start with Niala because she was the last one in. And so I think she can just kick this conversation off.
Ooh, that is such a great question. I do think that there's such a thing as a power couple. But what I think is that you and your partner needs to define what power couple means to you. Because sometimes I know in my journey with my husband, we look at what we see online, snippets of people's lives. And sometimes we might want to create that in our relationship, but it's not in alignment for you and your partner. So I know for me in my first year of marriage, that was a really it was a struggle for me because I was an entrepreneur before I met my husband. And so I was just looking at things and I was comparing him all the time, and it caused so much friction in our relationship. So I think the first thing is defining what power couple means to you and your partner.
Oh, I like that so much. Well, then that makes me go right to our resident couple that's here. Resident power couple. What do you think about the term power couple?
Uh, a power couple, it's like she said at the beginning, where you have to actually define it, in which a lot of people, I think, have a simple definition of it, where they actually believe it has to do with just strictly money, which I believe it's a lot further and more to it than that. Basically, a power couple, you can always have a couple that actually has a situation to where they both overachieve in their areas, basically. That are pretty much like workaholics, trying to achieve something. You're both supporting each other. But also, too, a power couple to me is somebody that you can also just take anywhere with you, to where like it's a couple to where you're very diverse. You can go very high, or just go just average, or also you have just family members that sometimes just aren't the most sophisticated people. And those are kind of couple that you can always take anywhere with you, that you know that they're fitting in any situation. To me, that's what a power couple actually really is.
Absolutely. If I can expand just a little bit, yeah, what he said, the couple that you can do anything with. We can sit in a boardroom together. We can sit at the hole in the wall together. And then just also the fact that I feel like we complement one another. I tend to be a little bit more of a planner. I need to make a whole project plan for everything. Kevin is a doer. So between the two of us, I like to think that we're pretty unstoppable.
I'll go ahead and jump in here if that's all right. So I like how everyone's got kind of different definitions of what's a power couple, and I think we all have different definitions of what's success, right? So success to some folks might be, hey, I'm at home with my kids. Success to other folks might be, hey, I'm filthy rich, right? So we all have different definitions of what a power couple would be. But I think for me, I think the major thing is, I think Nyala kind of touched on it as well, is not looking at what you see online, right? The power couple that you see on social media is not the real power couple. That's all, that's everything on social media is perfected and edited and made pretty. And you don't see the work, the sacrifice, the compromise that all went into that quote unquote power couple. And the real power couple is going to go through ups and downs and it didn't get to this great place that maybe they're at now online from the get-go. It was work to get there.
Absolutely. I think it's important. Like, I think something that you touched on is so important, in that we see I think we see the trope of the power couple in social media. Like, here we are. Oh, we're at the Lambo dealership. Oh, look at us. We just bought our Ferrari. And it's like, okay. But in the background, what exactly is making this work? Like stop. Because if we're going to be honest, anybody can go to the Lambo dealership and pull out a camera. So did you even buy the Lambo? Okay, sorry. But I think, let's be honest, like, this is social media. Let's be honest. But even if you did, I think there's very few couples that I've seen in the social media space that really show kind of the ups and the downs, how we kind of balance this thing out. Nyala and I, we spend a lot of time on social media. I'm curious, Nyala, have you seen a couple that really kind of says, okay, here's the truth? Have you seen that? Because I don't think that I have.
No, I haven't. No, we see what I would say is fabricated. We see highlights. We see the ups or the wins that a couple may be having, but to see the real deal, no.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
I really don't know, but I could say for me, if I was challenged to be that person, to take on that mantle, I would probably be worried about if my relationship can survive everyone's opinion. And I think maybe sometimes that's what stops people from being as transparent about everything that goes on when you're building with a partner. You know?
That's an interesting thing to consider. Because we have seen that social media and reality TV can have somewhat negative effects on relationships, right? We've seen that. And I think that's a fair assertion. So in that vein, I guess my question is, as you're building this power couple or you're working together or because I don't know that a power couple has to work in the same business. I think that's kind of a misnomer, because Natasha and Kevin don't work in the same business. They did at one time. And I think I want to get into that with you all. Because what if you don't work well together? And Kevin and Natasha, I'm going to go to you guys. What do you think? You guys work pretty well together, but did you always?
Actually, we did. We it's one of the things that we actually kind of defined where because I know Tasha has her strengths. So basically, if it's something that she's strong in, I just don't even touch it, because I don't want to be seen as wrong anyway. so basically, you can't have two chefs in the kitchen. Somebody has to be the sous chef at one point. So if that's what it is, we kind of just defer to each other based on what our strengths are, and fortunately, we're strong enough to acknowledge what we are good at and what the other person is actually better at.
Yeah, we tend to take turns being the sous chef, so to speak, depending on who's good at what. But in the early years of our entrepreneurial journey together, we did have to kind of stop and take a back seat and say, okay, I know Kevin tends to be a little bit alpha male. He's used to, I've got to take care of everything myself. Then having a strong partner as well, it was kind of like, hey, let me help you. This is us. Don't touch that. I already did that, or I'm doing this. You don't touch that, and I won't touch this. So some of it was just a matter of defining roles. And I think once we situated that, we were fine.
So do you think that there's hope for the couples that may not work well together, at least in the beginning?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, for us, I think a big part of it is that we tend to enjoy each other's company. We don't really bicker. We don't really argue. We're good being, around each other and being together. Now, if you're one of those couples, and we know a few who constantly bicker, who pick at each other, who don't necessarily enjoy spending a whole lot of time together, then being in business together is not for you. Because you've got to spend a lot of time together and make a lot of decisions together. And there'll be times when you don't have time to let personal stuff get in the way and in the middle.
Exactly.
I love that. I'm going to talk to Craig for a second. Okay, now, Craig, to my understanding, you and your wife do work together in the business, correct? Did I get that right?
More or less. So this is something we learned at the beginning. Is okay. So I have a pretty bad ADD, and we found that actually my daughter has it, and anyways, after testing and whatnot, figured out that the reason why I don't do some things is because I don't focus very well on admin, and so she would ask me questions like, did you track that? Did you do this? Like, no, I don't even pay attention to that. I don't know. I'll get to it at some point. And I just never would get to it. And so she kind of said, like, hey, she's actually an accountant by trade. So she said, listen, this is what I do. Let me do that for you, because I can knock that out because you don't do it. And as an accountant, she doesn't love talking to people. So she doesn't ever want to be the one actually on the phone and building up policies and talking to people about them. So it kind of just works well where we kind of defined our roles just based on what we like and don't like. And so I have no idea what I get paid on anything. She does literally all that for me. And when we first started, we also had to learn what was okay and what wasn't. Like in communication, and Kevin and Natasha talked about that. It is the most important thing, because she would ask me in my opinion, was the worst question she could ask me when we first started in business. She would ask me, "Did you make any sales today?" And like if I didn't, it was just like, it was crushing. And so we had, once I communicated that, when she understood, like, okay, that's not the best thing to say. If she saw I was having a bad week, she would jump in the muck with me. She was like, all right, let's start making calls. And because she knows I'm super competitive. And so God help me, if she was ahead of me, if she was doing better than me, I'd work 24 hours a day. I'm going to make sure it happens that I can do it. So she was able to use what was important to me, what drove me to help our business be successful. So it's just got to be, again, it's a sacrifice. It's a team.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And what do you do in the spirit of competition, right? What role does the spirit of competition play in the whole dynamic? Like what Craig was talking about, Niall, I brought you up to kind of address that. What role does the spirit of competition play in your relationship?
Why? Now for me and my husband, we do not, how can I say, like we both have our own separate businesses. And I would say I more support him in his business versus he supports me. He's more of an emotional support for me versus, he's a contractor. Okay. So I take care of, all the estimates, calling clients while he goes and does the work and do the thing, and I don't think we really deal with competition because of that. We're not in the same, we're not doing this together in that sense. So I can't really speak to competition. What I can say on our journey is that, when I came into the online space, I was entered into a new world of growth. The books that I was reading was different. The conferences I was going to was different. And my husband is not a social media person. Like, I think it was Natasha who said, know your roles, right? Like my husband is not a social media person. So for him, he didn't really understand the things that I was starting to become interested in, right? And so I think that started to play out in my relationship because I started to grow a lot faster because, he wouldn't catch up to the things that I was trying to tell him. So I had to make a decision like, listen, I'm going to just have to go and let him see what I'm talking about. And I think that as I started to grow a lot faster, where now, I started to become more of the breadwinner in that time, it created some contention between us. I wouldn't say competition though.
I understand.
If I can
said you had something
to
add.
I do. So as far as competition, I don't think he and I compete against each other, but this man is the most competitive person I've ever met in my entire life. Everything's a competition. So it's us versus everybody, basically. So from when we were in business together to even now. So you mentioned I work for H&R Block. I'm the district manager. At one point, I was #1 in my region for weeks. And this last week, someone caught up with me. And Kevin is the one that calls me 3 times a day. Hey, is Kenny ahead of you or not? Or, what do we need to do? Do I need to help you put some signs out? Kevin is on it, trying to make sure that we both succeed. But I think he's competitive, but we compete together for sure.
Yeah. Nobody wants to be the first loser.
Exactly. And what she was saying about defining your roles, I've told Steph this story before. When we first started our first business, Kevin did seminars. He did medical billing seminars. So we were kind of talking, hey, I think we could do this. And I was taking notes. I am a project manager. I take detailed notes. Everything has to have a plan. He was saying, the first thing we need to do is we need to get a list. We need to start making calls. So as I'm writing it down, I look up and he's on the phone. And I'm like, man, I thought we were going to sit down and plan this. And I realized he's already working on #1. So that's why I always say, I'm a planner, he's a doer. While I'm making my list, Kevin is already crossing number 1 off the list. He's on the phone making it happen. So I think we definitely work well together.
I love that. Coming back. And I think what I appreciate about you two's relationship, if I can just like give you your flowers while you're both sitting here, is that it is a very real relationship, but it also is a lot of fun. I see that you guys make time to have fun with each other. And, you know, I'm not one of those people to be like, oh, I want to be just like Natasha and Kevin. But I have seen parts of your relationship that I think are so amazing and so magical. And yeah, I think at some point, you know, y'all should probably start doing the marriage seminars, but that's just me. I mean, I'm already out here. I'm not here marketing y'all, but I mean, it looks like a great relationship to be in. That's what I will say there. That's why I want to give you your flowers, you know, as a symbol of Black love. And, you know, I know that I'm grateful for the example that you set for us. So I'm sure other people are grateful as well. So just want to give you
we have fun every day.
So I'm going to get everybody back in here. I love that for you. Like, I love that for you. Y'all, I'm sure y'all noticed that we've had a few little technical bobbles, and hopefully you guys that are watching on the other end, it's not as horrible as it looks over here on this side, because the way my OCD and ADD and all the other initials and stuff after my name are set up, it's a little much, but we shall prevail. Because the one thing I know is that when you're doing good work, every now and then you might run into an obstacle. And so today, this Wi-Fi just might be ours, but it's okay. Anyway, I wanted to take a moment, bring everybody back into the conversation, because we do have questions that are piling up. And so I want to let you guys know, but I also want to share some of the comments, right? So let's get into some of these comments over here. Mimi says, she had a comment before that. She said, hello, everybody. But she said, you guys answered the question. She said she wanted to know when opposites work in business together. And so she says, thank you guys for that response. And then Creative Soul said, that answered my question too. So that's amazing. Good deal. And so Creative Soul also says, woo, a word. I'm the dreamer. Husband is more logical. So I'm like, excellent, excellent, excellent. And we want to welcome Demisha back. Thank you. For those of you that have questions, I am saving them for our question segment so we can just kind of go through those. So if you have comments or questions, please do not hesitate to drop them in the comments. We are currently streaming on the Facebook page of the College of Empowerment, on LinkedIn, as well as on the College of Empowerment's YouTube page. So wherever you are, you can drop those comments, and I promise we will get to those questions. I'm going to give our panelists a little bit of a break while I reset our panel. So like I said, we are talking about, for those of you who are just tuning in, we are talking about love and the bottom line. We're talking about the idea of a power couple and what it might take to be that. I also want to give you some reminders about what we have going on later tonight. This is our double header. So we have this panel at 5 p.m. Central Standard, and then Healing While Dating or Married starts at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. I also want to let you guys know, if you signed up, then you are absolutely in for our secret session, which is going to be our Friday session, which is tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, with Nurse Millie J. I got Nurse Millie J to come out of retirement, y'all, to come and talk to us about some adult things. It's a very adult conversation. We're going to turn the lights down low. We're going to take it nice and slow, and we're going to talk about some things that really, really matter. So make sure you can check that out. We'll be posting the link on the Luma page for those of you who are looking for the information. Also, we have our spring membership drive in the college, and that means that you can join and save 65% on our hero and our champion memberships. And why do you want to be in the College of Empowerment? Because it is one of the few places where you can take a course and get a coach, because we are innovating personal and professional development as well as entrepreneurial education. And then the last thing, which I don't think I said in the first panel, but we are currently expanding our coaching team, our teaching team rather, in the college. And so if you go to the collegeofempowerment.com, you can learn more information about that. So that being said, we are continuing to truck on, and I want to ask Niala a question, because what I'm going to tell you is that, I always appreciate your candor. I always appreciate your candor and your transparency, your authenticity, right? And I'm just saying, I do. I really appreciate about it. And I also appreciate that you dress on brand. Like, I just need to give you one time for dressing on brand, because listen, I really should change the company colors to black and white, because every time you see me, I feel like I got on either black or white. But today I did pink. I did pink because Niala was coming, and pink is kind of on brand for us. So I was like, I'm gonna be Niala. That's what I'm gonna do. So Niala, I know that you have your own business. Your husband has his own business. But what advice do you give to the couples where one person is an entrepreneur and one person is not?
Oh, I'm so happy I got that question, because I have representation of that. And that's my parents. And so my mom is an entrepreneur. She's been an entrepreneur my entire life. My stepdad is not. They both love the Lord. They do that together. But when it comes to business, my mom has always been. And what I remember growing up was that my stepfather took care of everything, so my mother can do what she was doing. So I consider my parents to be a power couple, because I remember times when it would be like 11 at night and my mom is still sitting there during tax season, working, getting everything done. And he comes to make sure that she eats and stops her and bring the food. When we would have to do our runs to the midnight post office on April 15th tax day, he's there. When he would get off of work, and my mom was always, as long as I've been alive, she was always about her business. And so he was the one who would have us sitting down, doing homework, doing the things that you usually would think in a traditional marriage the wife would do, but he did. And I respect it so much. And I look at that as a power couple, because both of you don't have to be in business, but it goes back to what Natasha was saying. When you understand your roles, it just works. You know what I mean? And so that's my take on it. Me personally, in my own marriage, yes, my husband had his company before he met me. I had mine before I met him. We merged our lives together. You know what I mean? And so it was a little rough for us in the beginning in terms of respecting each other's roles, or respecting each other's strengths, if that makes sense. But for the most part, yeah, I think I lost the trend of the question because I'm so passionate about what I'm saying.
I just realized I was still muted. So I can add some to that. Neil, my wife actually is still a W-2 employee. She does help me with the business on the admin side. Once a month, she'll do all the things that are supposed to be done. But her every day is a W-2 job. Now, it makes her feel more comfortable to have that safety net of no matter what happens, we're getting paid. Since I'm entirely commission based, if I don't know, let's just say the world catches on fire, I don't know, and something happens, I don't have that guaranteed paycheck, so I actually have to keep on working. And so and just like you were saying, it involves a lot of that where both partners can kind of see where's needed and kind of step in those times. So like if it's the middle of the day and I'm working appointment based, I don't have an appointment and the kid's got to go someplace. We have, we have 4 kids. So, hey, honey, I got it. You keep on doing what you got to do. I'll go knock it out. But then when she gets off work at 5, well, that's when a lot of folks like to talk about health insurance at 5 o'clock. So I'm usually, that's when I'm always on the phone and whatnot. So then a lot of times, and I will say she does a lot more of the dinner makings than I do, because she kind of just jumps in there to take care of that role. So it's again, a teamwork effort.
So just to add to what Craig was saying, Kevin and I both tend to be workaholics. And I'm not saying it's a good thing, but we do. So previously, not necessarily being with people that were workaholics as well. I know Kevin's been an entrepreneur before, but just I would say the piece of advice is patience and understanding. Because, you know, when someone's an entrepreneur, and especially when you're the owner and you're feeling like everything is kind of rises and falls on what you make happen, then you've got to have someone, or you've got to be with someone that's patient and that understands. You know, you may pull out a laptop during movie night, or, you know, have questions about something that isn't necessarily family oriented on family day. So like I said, just patience and understanding is what I would say.
With that also, a lot of times some of it goes with just the regular things where both people are working. However, there's always somebody that does get off at 5 or 4:30. This happens to be me at this point. And previously it wasn't me all the time, but now it's me at 4:30. 4:30 I'm usually done. And Tasha might be back there until about 11 o'clock. So that means I'm cooking, I'm washing dishes, I'm going grocery shopping while she's doing that, basically. Just
laundry.
Because, yeah, laundry too at different times. But however, you know, so therefore the home stuff starts coming to where you actually it just has to get done. So whoever's actually available to do it, that's who just needs to be able to do it. That shouldn't be one of the topics of discussion to me if you're actually going to make that situation work. As long as you know the other person not laying in their sleep, they're actually working. So, you know, and the money all comes from the one place. So, you know, whatever else needs to get handled, whoever's available handles it.
Yep. I definitely think that's a conversation, because it kind of leads me into something I want to ask you guys about the idea of work, life, and love balance, because I think some people get very, even in traditional marriage or non-entrepreneurial marriage, of, well, it needs to be like this. And so I'm curious what your thoughts are on achieving balance as well as being expansive in the roles.
For us, like I said, I think we both kind of tend to be workaholics, so it's sometimes difficult to balance. I know there have been times when we said, hey, we're going to watch a movie, or we're going to do X at 7 o'clock. So, you know, he'll come and peek and remind me, hey, it's 6:55. Are you going to be wrapped up? So trying to balance. But in all honesty, 5-6 years ago, when we were, you know, in the thick of our own, having our own business together, there may or may not have been, you know, midnight naked conversations about the business. Just happened that way. It wasn't intentional, you know. Sorry, Kevin. You know, we're both up, and I remember, hey, did you talk to such and such client, or did you get this bill done, or did such and such pay us today? So some of it bleeds into each other a little bit. So.
Moments get ruined.
Yeah. Hey, it is what it is.
Yeah. Money's the root of all evil.
I mean, I can appreciate the transparency. I think the other panelists can as well, you know, and needing to have that understanding, right? I think what happens, now this is just my thoughts. I think that sometimes when people, you know, are married, or even if they're in an exclusive relationship, they start to ascribe meaning to things that aren't true, such as, oh, well, if you loved me, you wouldn't pull out your laptop during movie night. And I'm like, that the two things don't have anything to do with each other, right? They really don't. They really, really don't. And I think when we find that balance and that flexibility and that emotional maturity and that relational maturity, we don't try to put meaning to things. It just is what it is. You know, babe, you had to take out your laptop. Okay, love you still. Like the rise and fall of our marriage is not determined by whether you stay laptop free. I just think it's unrealistic. But I think it also goes back to the power couple tropes that we see in social media, where we're not doing anything but going on vacation or buying this or buying that. And so you don't see the demonstration of work-life, love, balance. So I definitely want to give Craig and y'all an opportunity to chime in on that if they wanted to. So, okay. Well, you know, I think this is something that everybody can get in on, but Greg, I'm starting with you. How do partners separate work disagreements from their personal life?
I feel like you really you selected this. You probably know my wife. You probably selected this on purpose. So my wife is the sweetest, nicest lady in the whole wide world, and she's got what I call Latina fire. When she's the sweetest, nicest lady in the world until you get her mad, and then she's scary. She gets mad. But when it comes to work, even if she's, regardless of whatever we might be fighting about, whether it's work, outside work, whatever it is. So I'm not gonna tell you everything's perfect. Everyone has disagreements, and we talk about it. But in the moment, the one thing we don't do is let it affect work. And it goes to what's most important to us. Like, hey, we have a family here. We have a life that we built to take care of things, and then regardless of whatever we might be disagreeing about, it's not, it's something small that we'll talk about it and get through. But we both know work comes first. So if there's a client call, if there's, if she's on doing something for work, then it's, whatever we've got, that goes on pause. That gets put by the wayside and just kind of sat there. Are we going to talk about it? Oh yeah, we're going to talk about it. We're going to have some discussions. And sometimes that pause for breaking is good for the calm down and relax and kind of think about a time. But definitely have to have that separation between work and personal disagreements.
I definitely want to know from our other panelists, like, how do you deal with it? How do you deal with the disagreements in the work life? Or even if it's not that we work together, maybe it's a case of they had a bad day, I had a bad day. How do you bring balance to that? And how do you make sure that the bad day outside of the home doesn't make it a bad day in the home? Niala, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I would say, like what, Craig said, it's not going to ever affect business. If there are things that we have to do, this is our livelihood. There are times, and I would talk for myself because I'm like his wife. So my husband is so laid back. I'm the one that's just like, listen, and so I would have to check myself sometimes. You understand what I'm saying? And realize that, I can't allow my upsetness for a disagreement to stop me from calling a client if that's what I have to do. Although I have to be honest and say, there's something that Stephanie mentioned about emotional maturity. My husband and I was not emotionally mature when we got married, and we've been married for 10 years. So we have literally been growing emotionally. Our maturity has been growing together. And so for me in the beginning, if I'm mad, I'm not calling nobody, and that became a problem. So I had to check myself. Business comes first in our family. The next thing for me is I have boundaries, and I stake my claim when it comes to my husband. Birthdays are special to me. Make it happen. I don't care whatever else is going. Stephanie said something. It is what it is. When you've been married for so long, you know each other's baseline. You know what each other loves, likes, dislikes, whatever it is. You respect each other. My husband knows that birthdays are non-negotiable. So even if we don't do anything for 6 months, I would not be unhappy because I know my husband. Right? That's not his thing. If we're going to do things, it's going to be me that's going to plan it. And I'm okay with that. But birthdays, non-negotiable. And he has to be okay with that, So I think it's like just that respect that you have for each other. And I also think it's the desire to want to have a successful marriage. And when you want to have a successful marriage, you'll work through those disagreements. You'll work through those things. You know what I mean? For the greater good of your marriage.
Yeah, sure. No. So what you said about boundaries, absolutely, especially if you're working together. Fortunately, we're both pretty laid back. We're both pretty calm. Now, I always say Kevin has a very long fuse. but there's a bomb at the end of it. So it's like, it takes a lot to get him to 10, but when he's at 10, but he doesn't get to 10 with me. You know, he and I, like I said, we've been blessed. And I say these things, it's not like, you know, we're just some fairy tale romance, but we've been together 15 years. We were both married to other people more than once before that. We've learned what works, what doesn't work. And then we were blessed enough to find each other. And this works. So I think we're pretty good with, you know, holding our boundaries and keeping boundaries. And the things that we did, you know, as far as work, there would be times where, hey, Kevin, do you remember to do this? No, I forgot. I'm like, oh, great. Now I got to be the one to take this angry client's call. But, you know, I didn't let that bleed over into our personal lives.
Yeah. I guess one of the things that always helped as well, when it comes down to that, is that we're both money motivated. So if it's something that had to do with work and there's money involved, we just left the other person alone. Handle it. Get the money in here, however you got to get it in. It doesn't really matter to me. You know, so therefore it's always separated. But then also too, like Tasha said, we are both very laid back, and we've known each other since we've been like 13 years old.
Yeah.
So we know each other like very well. You know, she's my girlfriend back in high school.
Junior high. Junior high.
So you know, so she just wasn't mature enough for me at that time.
Whatever.
But nevertheless, at the point in time is that we both have the same interests. We're both very laid back, because even though we don't have the same company anymore, our offices are, we both work from home all day long. Our offices are right next door to each other. So we see each other all the time, trying to see who's in there cooking, who's doing something. We just run back and forth. And, you know, we just play little games before just, let's take a break and go walk around the neighborhood, just do anything. But, you know, so we just we've been good at just staying out of each other's way, and we both are money motivated.
I'm laughing about what he said about money motivated. It made me think about, there was a time, so Kevin had been an entrepreneur before. I really hadn't until him. He was the one that was kind of encouraged me to get out of my box. But my first hard lesson was that people don't always pay you on time and when they're supposed to. So there was a time when I'm going through clients, and Kevin was like, you know, we might need to make some in-person visits. He said, I'll take this one, I'll take this one. He's like, you take this one. I was like, okay, I'll go and see that client. And he was like, you should put on a dress and some heels and go get our money. I'm like, what? Okay, this one's a man who's got a big check. All right, I'll put my heels on and go get our money, Kevin.
Men typically don't want to look broke around women. So we're money motivated. They were gonna look whether I was there or not.
I don't see a problem. I don't see a problem. Like, for real. Like, I don't see a problem.
We got our money.
I think one of the scariest things in my life was when, right? I bet he did. I think one of the scariest things in my life was when my then significant other said to me, oh, he didn't pay you? I'll go get your money. I'm like, he's going to jail. He's going to jail. Yeah. But I think there's something. I mean, listen, I didn't let him go get it, though. I didn't let him go get it. But yeah.
You got to know what works.
I mean, there's something to be said for, listen, we got to go get the money.
Yeah.
That's it.
Listen, I just
in my relationship. Go ahead. Okay. Yeah. So I was just thinking about how in my relationship, my husband, he's like the nice guy, you know? So I remember when we first got together, I would, you know, always be asking him questions about like deposits or did this client, and he will always be, oh, well, you know, they're old. And, you know, they said they'll do it on Wednesday. And I used to just see from a mile away how customers were taking advantage of his sweet, kind soul. And I had to step in, you know, and in the beginning, it was a little struggle because he was afraid. He thought that I would be so aggressive that I would cause him to lose customers, you know, if I stepped in. And that's just a testament to, I would say, respecting what we're so good at in our relationship. Because I think at that time, maybe my husband didn't realize, like, I do sales, like this is what I do. And we used to argue about this a lot until he finally got it. And he started to see how I was managing the clients. And he's like, okay, babe, you got it. You could do it from now on, you know? So yeah.
Where sometimes those men, we just have to prove some things to them. It's okay though. I wanted to get into some of these comments really quickly. I'm gonna bring everybody up, despite the fact that Wi-Fi might not be excited about it. I will not be thwarted, y'all. Y'all know that. But Mimi says, yes, when we allow God to put us together, we can work out a plan and it become ease and flow. Thanks. Work it out together. Wiggy Wilson came in with a good greetings for the panel. And Domisha, back for round 2, says that she agrees. Boundaries and effective communication. Amazing. I've got some questions about that time. And then she also agrees. Another comment. Please, thank you. Do not look broke getting our money. I love that. That's amazing. Listen, we're gonna all remember that. Don't look broke getting the money. These are the gems that you are taking from the Love and the Bottom Line panel at the Marriage and Mating Summit, presented by the College of Empowerment. Like, that's what it is. That's what you're gonna get. Empowerment is about action steps. So definitely want to make sure that you have some action steps, which are do not look broke, going to get the money. That is your action step. I mean, actually, that's pretty much words to live by. What do y'all think? Words to live by.
Exactly.
Don't look broke getting the money. Don't do that. I mean, I'm with it. Hashtag Kevinisms. So that being said, guys, I want to get into some of the questions that we have, unless somebody has something they want to add really quickly before we do that. Do any of y'all have any thoughts you want to add on anything before we get into some of these questions over here?
No.
Nope. Okay. And we're cooking. Okay. So our first question comes from Mimi. And she says, do you think that all couples should maintain the same why/goal when in business together in order to maintain cohesiveness in the marriage/business? Campbell's thoughts?
Absolutely. I would think, yeah. Because if you're not on the same path and you're not working towards the same thing, you're not going to be able to work together.
Yes. It's even more important when you're a couple to me, just because you have to make sure that what you believe the outcome is going to be, and you have to be realistic with it, because also too, it's not just a business then, because if the business doesn't work out, your relationship shouldn't go out with the business. So therefore, you really have to be a lot more focused, because it's not just a business partner. This is your life partner as well.
Yeah.
Then say your why, the goal, the why, it influences every step along the way. So everything you do from today, next month, your entire business plan is based on that goal and the why. And if you guys have 2 different goals, 2 different whys, you both head in 2 different directions, nothing's going to be successful. You're going to be pulling each other apart. You got to be on the same page with that.
Absolutely.
So I guess I'm always the adverse. Maybe that's the reason why we've had such a tough time. We definitely have the same why in terms of our goal, what we're working towards together. However, I think we also have separate whys. I'll give you an example. So not whys, but we have some passions outside of what we do together. So for example, my husband, he's from Trinidad, right? And he loves to grow, I don't even know what you call it, y'all, don't laugh at me, but breed pigeons, okay? So we have like a house built for pigeons. We have over 100 pigeons, okay? And that is his thing. He races them. He, goes trade and do all kinds of things with them. That's his thing. He grew up doing that in his country, and he wants to win this big thing. Has nothing to do with me. That is a goal of his. You know what I mean? And it's a passion and a goal. And so I feel like, yes, you have a main goal, but we also have different things that we are trying to accomplish. But as long as we know that we're supporting each other in it. So even though I don't like the pigeons and, I don't understand it sometimes, I understand that that's something he really wants to accomplish. His dad did it. His brothers did it. And so I respect it. You know what I mean? So I think to answer the question, it would be one main goal for the family. Why are we doing this as a family? But respect each other's separate goals as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I definitely like that. And, I know that Niala has a story that she wants to tell us, and I'm going to save it because it's the story you were telling in your promo videos. I'm like, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So that from you, Casey. So that being said, before we get there, because we've got a few more questions and then we've got the Niala story time, let everybody know that's watching what you all have going on. How can people get in touch with you? All of that goodness. I'm going to start with Craig.
Well, first I had to get a hold of me. So Insure American Family is www.insuredaf.com. The AF is for American Family, so we're all on the same page. And then my email is c.gruenbaum@insuredaf.com. But then again, that's also, there's actually a help on the website. You just click on there and it'll say, have a question, just click on there and actually goes right to my Facebook Messenger. So I'm pretty easy to get a hold of, and I'm always happy to help. Even if it's just questions about whether it's about health insurance, whether it's about marriage and partner, like whatever happens to be, I'm pretty easy to talk to and always happy to help.
He really is, guys. I popped on really quickly to let you know this is my insurance broker. He has talked me through and down and out of so many like mistakes I could have made, especially now that I no longer have a full-time job. I no longer have a W-2. So insurance is coming out of these pockets, right? The company's pockets. And so, Craig, you have been so helpful, especially when I didn't know exactly what I was doing. Sometimes I still don't. So I appreciate you putting up with me, my questions, all of the things. And so I just wanted to give you that flower while you were here and not wait, So I just wanted to know that. This is my insurance guy. This is my insurance guy. So check him out. All right. You're welcome. Niala, what do you have coming up?
So yeah, my company is Market Your Message. It's a coaching and consulting firm. I love working with women who want to monetize their story and skills. And so I have a workshop that's coming up. I believe that every business should have a sales funnel, right? And so I have this workshop where I'm going to be helping businesses create a minimum viable funnel for their business. And that is coming up on March 27th.
All right. I guess for us, we mentioned we're no longer, we don't have our own businesses anymore. Craig, by the way, thank you for clarifying what AF meant, because I wasn't thinking anything else on Beyonce's internet. But anyway, it is tax season. She mentioned I work for H&R Block. I'm a district manager. I'm in Corpus Christi, but I can do a return anywhere. So natasha.campbell@hrblock.com. I have a whole fleet of tax pros who can do everything from individual to small business to big business. You take a picture of your documents, they call you on the phone, they do a video call, we can do it from anywhere. So what's going on with me is tax season, and what's going on with me is what's going on with us.
Yep, this is her season.
I love it, guys. And I love both of you, and thank you so much for being here. We've got some more comments. I love it when you say this thing is good. TJ, who actually is one of our panelists on the dating while divorced, or is it dating? I think it's dating. Aren't you on the rebound panel? Tyrone TJ Jones is an amazing coach. He's also one of our giveaways, not him, but his coaching. Okay. I don't want y'all to get excited because, okay. There are identical goals, but also some individual personal goals that both partners can still help each other fulfill. Absolutely. We believe that. Absolutely. And then he said, I think it's going to show. Thanks for sharing, Craig. So while I have you here, Campbell's, there was a question about starting a business while raising young kids, and I know that you guys have children, but I don't know exactly when you started your business. Is that a question you guys can speak to?
Yes, definitely. When we actually started the business, it's pretty much when we first got married. It's probably in 2010,
It was a year
2011.
out. Yeah.
About 2010, 2011.
Any tips that you have?
Um,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I would say for us, I left corporate America a year into our marriage. That was kind of his gift to me, was to leave my corporate job. Shortly after that, we started working together. And it worked out better for us because we worked for ourselves, we could set our own schedules. So that meant that, I was able to be at the school for all three kids for whatever it is that they wanted or needed for, cheer, basketball, volleyball. Kevin was able to coach and kind of we formed his schedule around being able to do stuff with and for the kids. So for us, having a business, we worked a lot, but we played a lot too. We kind of managed our schedules around the kids. We did, AAU basketball and competitive cheer and volleyball and track, and whatever the kids were involved in, we were blessed enough to be there no matter what time of day it happened or when it was.
The main thing about it, when you're trying to start a company, depending if you actually, either you have capital already or the kind of job that you're going to have, you have to make sure that it's going to have a kind of fast turnover of money because otherwise you're not going to have time as far as with your kids and stuff as well. But it helped just because we worked together, and that basically we didn't have to pay anybody else. And of course, two people are always better than one. So and you can be a lot more productive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you guys for that. Niala, can you speak to starting a business while raising young children?
Definitely. So for me, I was not married yet. So I was a single parent, started my company with 2 children under the age of 10. And actually younger than that. So my advice, or for me, what I did is I had my kids involved. So like, as far as I can remember, when my son was born, he was very sickly. And I used to have a lot of issues with daycare all the time. And so I decided that I wasn't going to work no more. That's the first time I left my job. And I said, I'm done. I'm not working for anyone anymore. And I started doing a daycare business. I was always a legit business owner. So even though it was in my home, it was set up like a real daycare in my home. And I had my son along with 3 other children. And I would remember going to the bus stop around the corner, picking up my daughter. She was 6 years old, when kids start school. And she would come, and right away, she's helping feeding. She's holding Dakota. She's, being involved. Then I remember when I opened my hair salon, my son, 4 years old, he didn't even know how to sweep yet, making more mess, but it was his job to sweep the salon every day, and he loved it. So for me, I've always been a business owner, single parent, started my company while on welfare, government assistance, all the things you could think of. And my kids have always been right there next to me, involved in everything. And now I'm blessed to run my company with that same daughter, who's now 22 years old and does all the content creation for our company. So for me, it's just about having the kids involved. I always went through the guilt of feeling like I didn't have time because I was always doing hair all day and I didn't have time. So what helped me with that was having them involved.
I can add to that a little as well. My degree in my original career, I was an engineer. My degree's in IT security. So I was an IT engineer, and I would travel different places. I'd be home for 6 months at a time. But then if I was on site, I could be on site for a few months at a time. And my wife was all this is actually all her brainchild, because she said, hey, it's great when you're home, and it's great that you get some travel benefits, but man, when you're not home, it's me and 4 kids. It stinks. We'd love you to be home. Let's try and do this whole business thing, and see where this goes, because that way it keep you home. And so I think the important part is having the same why, right? So we'll go back to that same thing. Is the reason why we started the business, that was, hey, let's be at home, let's be with the kids, let's be able to take care of family while also being here to raise them and support, and just like Kevin and Natasha were talking about how, just be able to go to the soccer games, be at the football games, those kind of things where if you can be there, you can do it, then it's worth so much more than hey, I made some money doing some engineering stuff. And so granted, this is now obviously grown way better than engineering ever was, but it started with that same why. And yeah, we went through some hard times. We went through some Christmas on credit cards and whatnot. There was some struggling, but because we were in it together, we had the same why. We worked real hard. We made it happen. So I think that's important.
I was just going to add also what Kevin mentioned before, and Craig touched on, kind of having the same goal. Well, one, I think our kids were able to see just incredible work ethic that Kevin and I have. If they haven't seen anything else, they've seen us. We don't mind working hard, and we don't mind working for what we have. And Kevin said that we were both money motivated, but in the end, it's not necessarily the money, it's being able to provide for our family. We pride ourselves on, we're being able to help out what we need as far as family. Right now, we've got 3 college-age kids. They're 21, 22, and 23, and 3 different colleges and 3 different apartments. And mom and dad pay the rent. So it's not just money for the sake of money so we can take pictures next to Lambos. It's so that we can provide for our family. And ultimately, that's what's important to us. And that's, providing what they need and then providing the example as well.
Just go ahead and drop into that question.
What's the question?
How do you work out the worst oppositions in your relationship, and what are your suggestions for those business couples? The worst oppositions in our relationship.
I guess it really depends what the opposition the opposition is. Like, do they is it one of those things where you can have oppositions from the standpoint of view to where you have a person that's a workaholic and another person that's not. It's one of those things that you have to realize that it's going to take work as however long you have to in order to get something done. Some people, or the kind of people that just want to go to work, get off at 5 o'clock. Mm-hmm. That's almost never going to work if you're an entrepreneur. It's almost never going to work because you're always either preparing for the next day or trying to figure out what can make the business better or what changes actually need to be made to be able to get the amount of money in that you actually need. So to me, that's one of the things. So and that's one of the things I believe that you would have to actually work out at the very beginning, to where it's like, how much is this other person willing to work? Because if one of the people just are not willing to work that hard and feel like being a business owner is going to be one of those things where we just have our own time, we can do what we want to when we want to, those things are true, but that time has to be made up. And it's made up with time, which means you might be up at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning trying to figure it out, and then back up again at 5 and 6, just depending. Yeah. If not, you're going to wake up like that anyway because you don't have any money.
I think also communication, communication is super important. And I think, thankfully, that's one thing I think we don't really have an issue with. But from the beginning, like we were saying, like we kind of figured out, okay, here are the box of things that I'm really good at. And here are the box of things that you're really good at. So, if I cross over into his box and we don't agree on it, I think we're pretty good at deferring to the person that we've agreed. Okay, this is your strength. You're right. Let's go ahead and do this your way. And those kind of situations came up. Like I said, I think we were pretty good with communicating. If he doesn't know that I disagree with something, I don't say anything, and vice versa. and just kind of deferring to the person that we've decided was the expert in the specific subject. And, our roles have intertwined in some of the businesses that we've had. Like, for instance, when he was teaching seminars, I wrote the material. He's the subject matter expert. I handled the marketing and and logistics. He was the one that decided where he actually wanted to have the seminar and what he wanted to do and what he wanted to say. So a lot of that stuff was intertwined. So there were disagreements where, I've put together all of the material and everything, but then he's got to present it. So then when he doesn't necessarily agree with how I put things together or what I put together, a lot of it was just, a compromise on, okay, you're the expert on this, but I'm the expert on how it should look. You use your subject matter, I am marketing. So, a lot of it was just communication and deferring to one another on what we agreed kind of was our area of expertise.
And I think it's really important. I mean, it's team dynamics 101, right? When theoretically, when we start a project together, we should take inventory of what we each do well so that we can find the balance and that we can contribute to the team most positively. So, Craig, I got a question that came in, and you know what? I'm going to let you take it because I think you might know this individual. I don't know. But Lourdes says, in what ways have your entrepreneurial ventures or business commitment led to sacrifices in your personal relationships? And how have you managed or mitigated these effects to strengthen your connections? Craig, I'll let you go first.
Are you muted?
That's the part he didn't want us to hear.
No, I was laughing. I think she chat GPT that question because that is very, very in depth. But as far as sacrifices go, I mean, there's always give and take in a relationship. My wife calls it she calls it buckets, and so every time she's like, hey, you filled my bucket by I don't know, you went in the hot tub with me and sat there because she likes to do that. And so I'll fill your bucket by, I don't know, playing a game with you. Because again, I'm competitive, so I like to play games. Although there's certain games we can't play, like Monopoly. That ends marriages. Don't do that. And so there's and I don't like to call them sacrifices, because I think when you have your partner, and my wife, we're a lot like Kevin and Natasha, that we're best friends. Like she's my other half, and so when there's something I can do that makes her happy, I want to do that, and then she'll do the same kind of thing for me, and it's as long as it's kind of like both have that same goal in mind, and then it works out really well. And as far as especially in business, there's sacrifices. I mean, there's a ton. Like when I left what I was comfortable with to start off completely doing something that I didn't really know. I didn't know anything about it. Like I know risk management, but I didn't know anything about health insurance, the industry, the laws surrounding it. I didn't know anything about any of that stuff. And I definitely didn't know anything about sales, and I didn't want to. I don't want to be that guy that calls somebody and says, hey, buy stuff. That's not who I wanted to be. And so it was definitely a major change for both of us. I mean, she supported the family for probably about a year, just to get things going. Again, in her trying to support the family, we were living off ramen noodles and making it happen. The kids were eating way better than we were, but we were eating when we had to, and making sure they live the best life they can. And now it worked out because she made again, we can call it a sacrifice, but I think it was much more of a we kicked them when we can and made it happen.
Yeah. For me, the biggest sacrifice I would say would be on my husband's part, because he came into a situation where, he became my backbone, because before meeting him, I was a single parent that was handling business, kids, everything by myself. So when I met him and we got married, it was like, now I had a partner. Now I had someone that was going to help, which I've never experienced that before. And I would say that he sacrificed, because I remember times when, he would get those checks from those clients and he will give it all to me. And all because he knew I wanted to grow my business. There were things that I wanted to do and I didn't have it. And he was supporting me in that, and I remember times when one particular time where he gave me his whole check. because I wanted to do a networking event. I needed to pay a deposit, and he gave me the whole check. And I went ahead and I already knew what the whole check was meant to do. So I had in my mind that as soon as I got this check, it was going to pay the deposit. It was going to pay the light. It was going to do this. Then my husband comes back 3 days later and he's like, babe, I need you to give me some money for this. And the money was already gone. And so it caused so much, aggravation because of, on one hand, he was giving me everything to support, but then on another hand, he was sacrificing himself. He wasn't keeping anything for himself. So I would say that that's how we have, experienced sacrifice, but it has always been for the better of our relationship and our family. Because if he did not sacrifice in the years that he did, my company wouldn't be where it is. And I think it's also good as a couple that we give each other the credit as to, our flowers per se, right? As to how we sacrifice for our family.
So Creative Soul has a question. Like I can't tell you. I would just sit here and tell you, oh my gosh, I love how authentic and transparent you are. Helpful when people are trying to learn and understand and unlearn. Like the more authentic and transparent we are, the better. So I appreciate all of your candor in this. Creative Soul asks, how do you keep the motivation to start or improve a business when the finances and income are tight?
I got that question. Man, your desire has to be so great. Your vision for what you want for your life and for your family has to be so big. I went through so much growing this business, but I knew where I was going, and my husband believed in me. I don't even think he understood what I was doing. Half of the times, as a matter of fact, he didn't. I remember when I would do my networking events and he would come and he would just hold the bag. He wouldn't even stay. He'll just take everything out the car, make sure I was good, babe. You good? Yep. Then he knew that I was doing what I had to do. You have to want that life more than anything. That is the only thing to me that helps you keep the motivation and the momentum while you're struggling. People ask me all the time, how did you show up and teach people business? How did you show up when you knew behind the scenes you were struggling? And you were exactly what Stephanie said. I've always been transparent and authentic in my journey. And that impact that I make from being so transparent in my journey is what keeps the momentum going while holding on and just seeing my dreams.
I'm looking at all the questions that have come in, and I can appreciate what you're saying there, because it's absolutely important. Let me ask those of you who are watching. I'm jumping over to the comments really quickly. Let's see. Great question. TJ says, love the story, Niala. Both partners appreciating each other is so important. Got a smiley face and some hand claps. A great question and a thank you. And so I have a question specifically for Kevin and Natasha. So let me get those Campbells up here. Where are those Campbells at? And TJ says, Kevin and Natasha, how long did it take the two of you to gain balance in working together?
It probably took about a good 6 months or so just to be able to try to get the separation of powers together.
Yeah, separation of power is good.
because we both were the kind of person that we're both go-getters and have a lot of confidence in ourselves. So when you have a lot of confidence in yourself, you really feel like nobody else can do it better than you. So the other person just needs to listen. And so at one point, if you're really going to be successful, you have to try to pick the things out that you know how to do. You list the things that it's going to take to run the business, and each of y'all pick out the things that you think you can do well. And once you can kind of do that, that's kind of how it separates. And then from there, it's like we don't cross over each other's boundaries unless that person asks. And
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I still think she might be doing something wrong, but I'm just not going to say nothing. I might say it with the look, and she's like, "What?" But that's the way you kind of keep it light, because like I'm not going to tell her what needs to be done. If she doesn't like my look enough, then she might ask me, "What would you have done?"
Yeah.
And then we'll argue about why it's better, and go from there.
Yeah, and like you said, it took us a few months to get to where we both have kind of been the organizers, the boss in whatever we've done before, and we quickly realized, we can't both always be boss at the same time of the same things. So it took us a few months to just kind of get to where we got better at how we asked each other things and how we said things to each other, and we got better with being able to set and hold the boundary without being offensive or being offended.
Yeah.
Hey, that's my lane. I got this. Go ahead. Yeah. Kevin, and he likes to stand and go, you should press this next. You should do that next. And I'll give him the look, and he realizes, okay, I'm standing on your boundary right now. So it took us about 6 months before we kind of hit our stride.
Like with a lot of that is just really trying to figure out also too. It's at one time, well, not say at one time, I probably still do sometime. I have to ask Tasha, but tone is also a lot. So my biggest thing is I always tell her, don't listen to how it's coming out. Just listen to the words that I'm saying. The tone is just my passion.
Yeah. He's gotten a lot less barky with how he says things. But yeah, like I said, a lot of it was, learning how not to be offensive and learning how not to be offended.
I love it. Question. We have like 3 more questions, although I think we might have answered this one. I did put it up just a moment ago. From Domisha, how would you steer your loved one into their honorable place or space in the relationship to hone in what balances the relationship if they're not aware? And I kind of took that to be, okay, how would you show them what balance, like what thoughts actually balance the relationship if they're not aware? I think we kind of spoke to that, but do you have anything to add?
I would just say communication and speak up. There have been times, like one time in particular, I think I was standing in front of the door and Kevin bust through the door and he said something about me being in front of the door. And I was ticked off about the way that he said it. He didn't think anything of it. He went on about his business. So it took me saying, hey, I'm not happy about how you said this or how you said that. And, he came back and, I didn't even realize that it came off that way. So like I said, it was, that learning the line of, being saying one of us thinking something's offensive and being offended by it, and the other one taking a little bit more care in how you do it. So to me, all of it's communication, just, speaking up and being willing to give and accept feedback. And that goes for both of us.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Stephanie's saying, Neola,
it's Neola story time.
Story time.
Y'all, I don't have a story, but I guess it is a story. I almost divorced my husband in the first year of marriage due to a lot of the things that we're talking about in this conversation today. So for me, because I was in the online space, I did a lot of comparing. Like I said, I was emotionally immature. And I always would badger him to be something that he was not, like, why won't you do live streams? You see how Kevin and Natasha is here today. Thank God this was 10 years ago. Okay, guys. But you see how Kevin and Natasha is here today. I would be on my husband, like, why wouldn't you come on the live? This is what other people are doing, knowing that that's not his personality, not what he, wants. And so I was going to divorce him because I thought that you're in the way of my growth. You're in the way of my money. And you hear my language there, because all of that can be the demise to your marriage, because there's no my, there's we. And so in the first year I had the toughest time. And I thank God every day that he was willing to work through that. Remember, I said he's very passive, he's very laid back, and he was just willing to stick it through. It wasn't until about in 2020 when I got diagnosed with cancer that we started really talking about like having these conversations and talking about some of the things that I have done and some of the things that I felt he lacked over the years, that I finally realized the damage that I was doing to my marriage, and that if he wasn't strong enough to stick it through, we wouldn't still be here. And so I wanted to share this story because I feel that the number one thing that's important is how we started this conversation, understanding and respecting the roles of your partner, communicating, even if you haven't gotten married yet, communicating with each other. What do you want? These are the things me and my husband didn't do. We didn't have premarital counseling. We met each other and got married in under 5 months. We didn't have anything. All I wanted was to get out of an abusive relationship. And he saw something in me that he wanted, and we went full throttle, but we didn't have those conversations of what your goal was going to be. Do you want to be a homeowner? Where do you want to raise kids? None of those conversations. So those became big stumbling blocks for me in that first year. And I wanted to share this because this is how we can prevent anyone else out there who's thinking of being married or who's in a marriage. I want to share my story to prevent you from experiencing what I did, although we're still here going strong.
I love that. And I want to say a personal thank you. We're almost out of time, but I want to give a personal thank you to each of you all. For those of you who have tuned in, again, my sincere apologies for the technical difficulties. I hope it's not coming across on your end like it has come across on mine, but such is Wi-Fi. Nevertheless, Craig, thank you so much for everything you do for me, for everyone else over at Insured American Family, also known as insuredaf.com. Yeah. And thank you, Campbell's, for everything that you guys are doing, just being a great example, having a great time, loving each other amazingly, and getting this money, because you got to get this bag. And Niala, I really appreciate you for everything, even the things you continue to inspire, to encourage, and you make us laugh, and I think we need more laughter in this world. I don't think anybody would be upset about laughing. Before we get out of here, I want to do kind of a lightning round based on this question. And it's from Mimi, who asks, personal accounts only, how do you all handle personal finances? Do you prefer joint, separate, personal accounts only? She prefers checking in separate. So she's not talking about the business. She's talking about personal. So lightning round, what do you prefer? Is it joint, separate, joint, whatever it is? We're just going to start with Niala and go around. Niala, what are your thoughts? Personal accounts only.
We both should have separate personal accounts and one that we're putting in together that handles the household.
Yeah.
I like it. Campbell's?
We do the exact same thing. We have one that pays all the household bills based on a percentage of our income, and the rest of it's yours. You can do what you want to out of your own account.
Yeah, we tried that. It didn't work.
Love it.
We tried the, hey, well, we have so everything goes into one account. We have like, hey, well, we'll pay bills from this account, and then we tried doing the whole, we'll pay each other, and then you've got your own account. It just, it was too much to manage for us. And I think for some people it really matters. Some people it really, really matters. Like, so, it was like for one of my wife's sisters was talking about whether she gets an allowance or not. And she makes good money. Like, she doesn't need to get an allowance, but they had to work out like who's allowed to spend what. And for us, we just didn't really have that. We don't have those issues. Like, if my wife wants to go get her hair done and nails done, well, like, this is a part of being a lady. You got to do your stuff. I'm not going to count that on what money you were allowed to spend. And we don't do that, right? So I think if you have those kind of things, like, hey, we have to limit ourselves and make sure we only spend certain amounts of money, then all right, pay yourself so that way you can manage. But for us, we go, hey, do you want to go on a trip? Okay, we're going to save some money, make sure we go on a trip. We're going to, she wants to get this done. I go to, like, I don't think about like, oh, can I go, I don't know, spend $100 on I don't know what, I don't really spend money. So I guess it's, that also helps. I'm not really a big spender. But I guess, for us to we just kind of have one big account that we just use.
I just wanted to say also one big caveat. We do have kind of our joint, this is what we pay bills and the kids stuff and everything out of. And then we each have our kind of our own separate accounts as well. I think what works for us is that joint account, one of us manages it. So for years, while I was kind of the back end administrative side of our business, I managed personal and business finances. Now Kevin does it. Kevin is the one that manages our joint account, makes sure all the kids' stuff is paid, make sure everything around the house gets paid. He does investments. He makes sure that we have savings. He puts a certain percent away. If we both had our hands in that account, it wouldn't work.
Well, I would just say that I'm glad that Natasha added
guys.
that.
Thank you.
I'm glad that she added. I'm glad that Natasha added that, because for me, I'm that person. So I'm sure y'all pretty much guessed it. I'm the one that handles everything. And even with our our separate accounts, I have access to his personal account. He does not have access to mine. And it's not because I don't have a problem giving it. It's just, like I said, we know who our partners are. I know his baseline. He lets me handle it. And he don't need or care or nothing. He's so simple. As long as he can do his thing, his pigeons, he's good.
I wish we had more time to get into the pigeon of it all. But panelists, I thank you guys so much for being here, for sharing your stories. I really wish we had more time for the pigeons. I really want to know about these pigeons. We might be missing out on a bumper crop of hidden, money or something. Will you come back and talk about the pigeons? But anyway, listen, guys, I just want to say thank you.
Put a video out and just show you guys the pigeon.
Yeah, I think you need
so y'all can see what it looks like.
I see his wheels turning, and I'm afraid.
Don't be afraid. Don't be scared. But guys, thank you so much, panelists, for being here and for helping us have another amazing summit. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
All right, guys, that is panel number 2, love and the bottom line. And like I said, we started this conversation out talking about the power couple. Is it a realistic goal or is it an unrealistic trope? And I think it really depends on where you're working it. If you're working it in social media, probably a bit unrealistic. If you're doing it in real life, from what you can tell from our couples and the individuals that have spoken, from your comments and everyone who's been here, being a power couple means that we definitely need to be empowered. And one of the best places, don't do that, Stephanie. I was about to do like a shameless promotion. But seriously, it's important for you to be empowered so that as a couple that you can demonstrate that power in the world. So whatever work you do, I just sincerely hope that you are loving each other fantastically. That being said, make sure you come back for our 7 p.m. panel, Healing While Dating and Married. My name is Stephanie D. McKenzie. I'm the founder of the College of Empowerment, which you can check us out at thecollegeofempowerment.com. And as I always do, I thank you guys from the bottom of my soul for loving and learning with me. Bye.
Welcome to the Marriage and Mating Summit, presented by the College of Empowerment to help us all get our ships together. At the College of Empowerment, we're innovating personal and professional development with an online community, courses, and private coaching. Take a course. Get a coach.